The great hall of Crownspire had never been so quiet. Hundreds of wolves stood beneath the black and silver banners of House Varek, from territorial alphas near the dais to nobles and council families lining the marble floor. Moonlight poured through the high windows and struck the ceremonial silver. At the center of it all, Lucian Varek wore the crown of the Alpha King for the first time. 20 feet below him, Elara Wynn waited for hers. She was 25, dressed in white silk, threaded with silver, her chestnut hair pinned beneath a light veil. She had stood beside Lucian for 7 years through border disputes, winter shortages, council revolts, and the birth of their daughter. Tonight was supposed to make official what Crown lands already believed. Lucian would be king. Elara would be his wife and Luna Queen. Their 5-year-old daughter, Lila, sat in the front row clutching a crooked paper crown made from silver-painted card. For Papa was written across it in uneven blue letters. Lila lifted it toward Elara, as if afraid her mother had forgotten the surprise. Elara smiled at her once. Then the moon priestess raised the Luna crown. By vow, by blood, and by the witness of the gathered packs, stop. Councillor Gideon Arden stepped from the eastern line of nobles. Beside him stood his daughter Celeste. A murmur moved through the hall. Celeste had been Lucian's first love. Everyone knew it, just as everyone knew she had been kept from the inner court during the months leading to the coronation wedding. She wore pale gray, her golden hair pinned at the nape of her neck, her expression almost reluctant. Gideon bowed toward the dais. Your Majesty, before Lady Elara is crowned, the council must place evidence before you. The moon priestess lowered the crown by an inch. Elara looked at Lucian. He did not look surprised. That was the first thing that frightened her. What evidence? She asked. Gideon produced 3 folded letters. Correspondence regarding Wintergate. Private correspondence. A louder ripple spread through the hall. Wintergate had belonged to House Wynn for generations before Elara entered the royal union. Its mountain passes controlled the cleanest northern grain route in Crownlands. Gideon handed the letters to Marcus Reed, the royal beta, who carried them to Lucian. Celeste spoke first. I found them 2 days ago. Elara turned to her. Where? In an Arden Courier Archive. That is not an answer. Lucian unfolded the first letter. Elara watched his eyes move down the page, then the second. His jaw hardened. Lucian. He kept reading. Gideon said, the letters show Lady Elara intended to reactivate House Wynn's independent trade rights after tonight, contacted Northern Territories regarding alternative freight passage, and planned to restrict royal grain access once Wintergate returned to her control. Someone behind Elara whispered, treason. Her wolf pushed hard against her ribs. No. Her voice remained even. Those route studies were ordered by the Crown. Gideon smiled without warmth. These letters say otherwise. Elara looked at Lucian. You assigned me to study those routes. His eyes finally lifted. For 7 years, she had known every shade of his anger. This was not rage. It was doubt. The bond between them had always carried his presence like a low current beneath her ribs. Now it tightened not with betrayal yet, but with uncertainty so unfamiliar that her wolf went still inside her. Lucian, she said quietly, you know these aren't mine. The hall seemed to lean toward them. He descended 1 step. Elara. No. Look at me. He did. You gave me the Northern Corridor assignment yourself. You signed it in Winter Council. Marcus was there. Marcus shifted, but Lucian raised a hand before he could speak. I remember the assignment. Then you know what this is. I know I need answers. A cold pressure spread through her chest. From whom? Lucian's gaze flicked toward Celeste. That tiny movement did more damage than a shout could have. The moon priestess still held Elara's crown. You are not seriously considering stopping this ceremony. Lucian's expression hardened. As Alpha King, I will not ignore evidence involving one of the kingdom's most important territories. You are suspending my coronation on the word of your former lover? A few nobles lowered their eyes. Lucian's voice became formal. Until these charges are answered, the Luna coronation is suspended. The moon priestess lowered the crown, not onto Elara's head, back onto the velvet cushion. The whisper started. Elara looked at Lucian. I stood beside you for 7 years. This is not about us. Then what is it about? The kingdom. You're protecting the kingdom. Yes. From me? Lucian did not answer quickly enough. The silence became the answer. Behind her, Lila made a small sound. Then Celeste swayed, one hand going to the council table. Lucian moved immediately. He came down from the dais and caught her by the arm. The hall saw it. Elara saw it. Lila saw it. Celeste pressed her fingers to Lucian's sleeve. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen tonight." Lucian looked at Marcus. "Secure the letters. I'm taking Lady Celeste to the East Tower. I want to know exactly where she found them." Elara stared at him. "You're leaving? I need facts. Then stay and ask me." Elara. One word. A warning. As though she were the one losing control. Something inside her went perfectly still. Lucian turned and walked out of the great hall with Celeste beside him. He did not look back. The doors closed. Elara stood beneath the empty space where the Luna crown should have been. A moment later, small fingers touched her gown. "Mama?" Lila had slipped away from the governess. The paper crown was still clutched in her hand. "Why didn't Papa put your crown on?" Elara swallowed. Around them, the court pretended not to listen. Lila looked toward the closed doors. "Did you do something bad?" That hurt more than the whispers. Elara crouched and smoothed a loose curl behind her daughter's ear. "No, sweetheart. Then why did he leave with her?" Elara had no answer she would give a 5-year-old. Not yet. She kissed Lila's forehead and stood. Across the hall, Marcus sealed the letters inside a black evidence case. One phrase from the accusation would not leave her mind. Northern Freight Passage. She knew those words because she had written them first in a crown assignment Lucian himself had ordered months ago. If someone had turned royal work into evidence of treason, then someone had planned tonight carefully. Elara removed her ceremonial gloves and handed them to an attendant. "Take Lila back to the royal suite." The woman hesitated. "My lady, where are you going?" Elara looked toward the doors Lucian had disappeared through. "To ask my husband why he chose to believe another woman before he even asked me the truth." Elara left the great hall through the western passage, moving fast enough that the attendants outside stepped aside without being asked. Behind her, the coronation music had stopped. The silence followed her. The East Tower stood across the inner courtyard, separated from the royal wing by a covered stone bridge. Rain tapped against the high windows. Elara barely noticed. Her wolf had not settled since Lucian walked away with Celeste. The bond between them pulled strangely beneath her ribs, not painful yet, but tight, as if something inside it had been twisted. 2 guards stood outside Celeste's rooms. "My lady, move." Neither did. His Majesty asked not to be disturbed. Elara looked at the older guard. "I am his wife." The man's face tightened. "For tonight," she added, and the words surprised even her. They stepped aside. The outer sitting room was empty. A fire burned low behind a silver screen. Elara crossed it without announcing herself, then stopped when she heard voices through the half-closed inner door. Celeste spoke first. "You saw the letters. I saw something that looked like her hand." Lucian's voice was lower than it had been in the hall. "Then why are you still defending her?" "I'm not defending anyone." Celeste gave a soft laugh. "You suspended your own wife's coronation in front of half the kingdom. If that was neutrality, it was an unusual version of it." Elara went still. Lucian said nothing. Celeste continued. "She made herself indispensable to you. Trade routes, winter stores, council negotiations. Every time something broke, Elara was already standing there with the solution. That is called competence." "No, that is called leverage." Lucian's wolf stirred through the bond. Elara felt a brief flare of irritation. Celeste lowered her voice. "Ask yourself one question. If Wintergate became hers again tomorrow, would she still need you?" Elara's fingers curled. Lucian answered after several seconds. "This is not about whether she needs me, isn't it? Enough. If you still trust her, go back." Silence. "Go back to the hall," Celeste said. "Put the crown on her head. Tell every alpha in that room that the letters mean nothing because Elara Wynn would never betray you." Elara waited. 1 heartbeat. Tfo. Lucian did not move. Celeste's voice softened. "She knew you would choose the kingdom first. That is why she built herself into it." Lucian finally spoke. "Elara was the woman the kingdom needed." The sentence landed softly. Then Elara understood it. Celeste asked, "And me?" Lucian exhaled. "You were the woman I wanted before I learned to need anyone." Elara closed her eyes. 7 years collapsed into a few inches of dark corridor. She remembered Lucian half asleep beside her after Lila was born, his hand around hers. Lucian bleeding on a winter battlefield while she held pressure against his side. Lucian telling her once that need was not weakness if it had her name on it. Apparently he had forgotten. Inside the room, fabric shifted. Celeste said, "Then stop pretending this is only about letters." Lucian's voice sharpened. "Do not turn this into something it isn't. You came here with me, to question you, and you stayed." Elara opened her eyes. Through the narrow gap, she could see them. Lucian stood near the fireplace with his ceremonial coat open at the throat. Celeste faced him, close enough that one step would erase the distance. "Choose," Celeste whispered. Lucian's jaw tightened. He could leave. Elara knew it. He knew it. The bond knew it. For 1 second, his wolf pressed hard against hers, restless and angry, as if some deeper part of him recognized the edge before his pride did. Then Celeste touched his chest. Lucian caught her wrist. Elara almost stepped forward. Almost. Lucian pulled Celeste toward him and kissed her. Pain tore through Elara so suddenly that her hand struck the stone wall. The crown bond contracted like a wire pulled through bone. Her wolf recoiled with a soundless snarl, and somewhere inside the palace something answered. Lucian broke the kiss. His head turned toward the door. Elara. She was already moving. She crossed the sitting room before either of them reached the threshold. The guards looked at her face and did not speak. By the time Elara reached the royal suite, her breathing had steadied. Lila was asleep on the sofa beneath a wool blanket, the paper crown tucked against her chest. Elara went to the writing table. The moon covenant lay where the priestess's assistant had placed it before the ceremony, waiting for the final signatures that were supposed to bind the royal union before sunrise. The silver oath mark at the bottom was no longer silver. It had turned black. Elara stared at it. Beside the mark, the covenant serial number remained clear. So did the ceremony timestamp written earlier that evening by the moon priestess. Her hands stopped shaking. She knew enough crown law to understand what she was looking at. The mark was not an omen. It was a record. Lucian had not merely betrayed her. He had documented the breach himself. Elara pulled the crown law volume from the lower shelf, opened it to the section she had once indexed for the royal archives, and found the line she remembered. A provisional union breached before first light may be severed by the injured covenant holder. For the first time that night, Elara felt no humiliation at all. Only clarity. Elara read the statute twice. The words did not change. A provisional union breached before first light may be severed by the injured covenant holder. Below it came the procedure. The petition had to be filed before sunrise. The original moon covenant had to accompany it. The breach mark had to match the ceremony ledger, and the Luna coronation had to remain incomplete. Elara looked toward the sofa. Lila slept beneath the blanket with the paper crown pressed against her chest. For one dangerous second, Elara imagined doing nothing. Lucian would return angry, defensive, perhaps ashamed. Celeste would be blamed. Council would call the kiss a private mistake, and the public humiliation a necessary precaution. Elara would be asked to think of the kingdom. She had been thinking of the kingdom for 7 years. Tonight she thought of the little girl who had asked whether her mother had done something bad. Elara closed the law book. "No." She woke Lila gently. "Mama? I need you to get dressed. Is Papa coming?" Elara paused. "No." Lila studied her, then nodded. Elara packed one traveling case. Practical clothes, Lila's medicine, 2 books, her personal ledger, and certified House Wynn property records. She left the royal jewels behind. The Luna ring remained on the table. Last, she placed Lila's paper crown carefully between 2 folded dresses. The Royal Moon Registrar occupied rooms beneath the Eastern Archive Tower. A single lamp still burned when Elara arrived. Registrar Thomas Vale looked up and went pale. "My lady, I need to file a first dawn petition." His eyes dropped to the black mark on the moon covenant. "Close the door," he told his assistant. Thomas took the original covenant. "Serial number?" Elara read it aloud. The assistant opened the ceremony ledger. Matched. Coronation status? Incomplete. Suspended by royal order at 11:43. Final covenant signature? Not entered. Thomas examined the black oath mark beneath a moon silver lens. "This records a voluntary exclusivity breach by the other covenant holder." "I know." You understand that once I set the Silver Dawn seal, the marriage cannot be appealed by the Crown. Yes. He hesitated. Property reverting through the provisional union can still be challenged for procedural fraud within 30 days. A challenger would have to prove you concealed or engineered a pre-existing plan to divert Wintergate from the Crown before the breach occurred. Elara's eyes narrowed. Did I? That is not for me to decide. Then file it. The assistant placed 3 records before her. The first Dawn petition, the official ledger entry, and a certified receipt bearing the covenant serial number and exact filing time. Tomas slid the certified copy toward her. Keep this with you. The archive retains the original. If anyone challenges the filing, this number, this time, and my assistant's witness signature establish when the petition became legal. Elara folded it once and placed it inside her coat. No royal order can cancel this? Not the marriage, Tomas said. Not even the king's. That answer steadied something inside her more effectively than comfort could have. Elara signed. The assistant signed the witness line. Tomas pressed his seal into silver wax. A thin silver line spread around the petition. The moon covenant shuddered. Elara felt the bond tear. Pain drove through her chest hard enough to force one hand against the desk. Her wolf surged, searching for a presence that had been there for 7 years. Lucian. Then nothing. No anger. No warmth. No distant pressure. Silence. Across the palace, Lucian stopped in the East Tower corridor and pressed a hand to his chest. Elara. There was no answer. Back in the registrar's chamber, words appeared beneath the Silver Dawn seal. Conditional marital holding terminated. Wintergate reverts to Elara Wynn. Tomas went still. My lady. Elara stared at the line. Wintergate had not been granted to her. It had returned. Make the ledger final. At 3:14 in the morning, the severance became irrevocable. By 3:30, Elara and Lila were in a plain carriage leaving Crownspire through the eastern service gate. Lila leaned against her. Can Papa still feel us? Not the way he used to. Lila tucked herself closer. Elara held her and did not look back. Lucian reached the royal suite less than 20 minutes later. The room was empty. He saw the Luna ring, then the ceremonial duplicate of the unfinished covenant left for the royal household records. Across its face, the registrar's office had already transmitted the Silver Dawn notation. Marcus entered carrying the emergency archive report. Lucian turned. Bring her back. The marriage is severed. I did not ask what the document says, and you cannot reverse it. Lucian's wolf pressed hard beneath his skin, furious at the silence where Elara's presence had always been. He remained every inch the Alpha King, but for the first time in 7 years, he could no longer sense her fear, anger, or distance. Marcus opened the report. Wintergate reverted with her. Then stopped the transfer. I cannot. Why? The marriage is final. The property reversion can only be challenged under the 30-day fraud provision. Lucian's gaze sharpened. What would that require? Proof that Elara had already concealed or engineered a plan to divert Wintergate before the covenant breach. Lucian looked at the Silver Dawn notation again. For the first time that night, anger gave way to something colder. Because if such proof existed, someone would have 30 days to find it. By late afternoon, Crownspire had disappeared behind miles of wet forest and mountain road. Lila slept, curled against Elara's side, one hand buried in the folds of her cloak. Elara had not slept. Every few miles, the absence beneath her ribs startled her again. For 7 years, Lucian had existed somewhere inside her awareness. Not thoughts, not words, simply presence. Now there was nothing. The carriage climbed toward the black pines marking the Northreach border. A horn sounded once. The driver slowed. 3 mounted guards emerged from the trees, followed by a larger party in dark northern leathers. At their center rode a man Elara recognized before anyone announced him. Ronan Thorn, Alpha King of Northreach. He was taller than she had expected, broad-shouldered beneath a charcoal riding coat, his black hair damp from the mist. His amber eyes moved from the carriage to the House Wynn seal on Elara's document case. Then to her, Lady Wynn, not Queen, not Luna, not Lucian's wife. Elara stepped down. King Thorn. His gaze flicked toward Lila, who had woken and now watched him through the carriage doorway. You crossed my border without sending formal notice. I did not have time, so I heard. That meant news had traveled faster than she had. Elara kept her expression neutral. I need sanctuary for my daughter. And for you, I need recognition. Ronan's eyebrow lifted. Elara opened the document case and handed him her certified Silver Dawn receipt. He read the seal number first, then the filing time. His eyes sharpened. Wintergate reverted. Yes, one of his advisors stepped closer. If this is valid, it is, Elara said. Ronan did not rebuke the man. Validity is exactly what we're going to determine. Elara almost smiled. At least he was honest. They continued to a stone border keep built above the river gorge. Lila was taken inside, where a healer and 2 female attendants were waiting. Elara refused to leave until the healer confirmed the child was only exhausted. Before Elara left the room, Lila caught her sleeve. Are we staying here? For tonight. Does Papa know? Elara looked toward the northern windows. He knows we left. Lila considered that, then let go. Okay. The trust in that single word made Elara straighten before she returned to the hall. When she finally entered Ronan's council room, dusk had settled against the windows. Maps covered one wall. Elara recognized several immediately. Northern freight corridors. Ronan noticed. You've seen these. I helped commission 2 of them. You contacted Northreach about Eastern Freight Passage 6 months ago. Elara looked at him. You remember. My trade master remembers. Elias Venn answered your office 3 times. The name mattered. Elara had never met Elias Venn, but she remembered his precise, irritatingly detailed replies. Those communications were Crown business. I know what they were on my side. Celeste Arden is using them as evidence that I plan to take Wintergate. Ronan leaned one hand on the table. Then if anyone challenges your Silver Dawn claim, Elias may become useful. Noted. Calmly. Without pretending the danger did not exist. Elara opened the certified receipt. The Crown cannot reverse my marriage. No, but it can challenge the property reversion for 30 days. Yes, Ronan's eyes held hers. And if someone can prove you concealed or engineered a plan to divert Wintergate before Lucian breached the covenant, the Moon Court could invalidate the reversion. I know. Good. Her temper flashed. You enjoy saying that. I enjoy knowing the person across from me understands the knife on the table. Her wolf stirred. Not fear. Recognition. Ronan felt it. His own wolf pressed briefly against the room, controlled and powerful, then withdrew. Elara's chest tightened without warning. Phantom pain. She caught the edge of the table. Ronan moved once, then stopped before touching her. May I? The question reached her through the pain. Elara looked at his hand. Lucian had touched her for 7 years without asking because they had belonged to each other so completely that neither had thought to question it. Now even memory felt dangerous. She nodded. Ronan closed one hand around her forearm, steadying her until the spasm passed. Nothing more. When Elara straightened, he released her immediately. What do you want from Wintergate? She asked. Trade access. How much? A 10-year corridor agreement. No. One of his advisors inhaled sharply. Ronan only folded his arms. 5. No. You came here asking me to risk a conflict with Crown lands. I came here asking sanctuary for a 5-year-old girl. And I'll grant that, whether we make a deal or not. That stopped her, Ronan continued. Your daughter is protected while she is in Northreach. She is not bargaining material. Elara studied him. And me? You get 30 days. For what? To establish that Wintergate legally answers to you and that your claim will survive challenge. And if it does, then we negotiate trade as equals. Not gratitude. Not debt. Equals. Elara closed the document case. And until then, you remain under Northreach protection. No ownership? His expression changed slightly. Lady Wynn, if I wanted something I could own, I would not begin with a woman who severed an Alpha King before sunrise. For the first time since Crownspire, something almost like amusement moved through her. Almost. Ronan glanced toward the maps. If those records are valid, Crownlands did not lose its northern gate this morning. Elara met his eyes. No. She placed one hand over the House Wind seal. It gave it back. By the second morning in Northreach, Elara had already turned Ronan's smaller council room into a temporary records office. Wintergate ledgers covered one end of the table. Warehouse leases, freight permits, merchant registrations, and tax summaries were stacked beside them in careful columns. Ronan had given her access to Northreach copies of cross-border filings, but not his private trade books. Elara respected the distinction. Across the mountains, Lucian was learning what absence looked like when it stopped being emotional and became administrative. A grain shipment from White Hollow arrived at Crownspire with the wrong transit authorization. The Treasury Master insisted the document was valid. Marcus disagreed. Celeste suggested they issue a royal override. Lucian read the clause once. No. Celeste looked up. Why not? Because an override would trigger a retaliatory toll under the Northern Compact. The Treasury Master blinked. I thought that provision expired. It didn't. How do you know? Lucian looked at the empty chair to his right. Because Elara had corrected him on it last winter. He did not say that. Find the original agreement. The council moved. Lucian remained dangerous, decisive, and entirely capable of ruling. But by noon, 3 separate questions had reached his desk that Elara once would have answered before they became problems. He had mistaken invisible work for effortless work, and now the difference had become measurable. In Northreach, Elara found the first irregularity just after midday. 3 companies, she said. Ronan crossed the room. What about them? Different names. Same banking intermediary. She turned the ledger toward him. North Star Storage, Vale Freight Holdings, Mercer Grain Cooperative. They sound legitimate. They're supposed to. Ronan leaned closer. Elara tapped 3 dates. All 3 began leasing warehouse space near Wintergate's eastern pass within 6 weeks of one another. That proves nothing. Agreed. But this gives us a direction. She slid over the payment records. Each company routed fees through the same private banking house. The account numbers differed, but the processing code did not. Ronan's expression sharpened. Arden? Not yet. Elara refused to jump ahead of the evidence. The intermediary handles several known Arden commercial accounts, but I need a direct link before I call it theirs. She copied the ledger entries, warehouse signatures, payment dates, and processing codes. More troubling was the timing. The first lease had been signed nearly 4 months before the Coronation wedding. Whatever this was, it had not begun after Elara left Crownspire. Someone had been positioning pieces while she was still preparing to become Luna Queen. She underlined the dates once. Later, Ronan brought 2 local advisors into the room. One, an older wolf named Calder, studied Elara's notes with open skepticism. So the discarded queen believed she found theft in 3 pages? The room went quiet. Elara did not look up immediately. Ronan did. Her name is Elara Wynn. Calder shifted. I meant no insult, my king. Then use her name. Elara lifted her eyes. Ronan was already looking back at the ledger. He had corrected the insult without turning her into something he owned or protected for display. An hour later, Elara disagreed with him over a tariff projection. You're assuming merchants will absorb the increase, she said. They will if the southern road costs more. They'll split shipments and make both routes less profitable. Ronan folded his arms. You're certain? No. That surprised him. I'm saying your model is incomplete. And yours? Also incomplete. A corner of his mouth moved. Good. I was beginning to worry you thought you were always right. I usually am. There she is. A laugh almost escaped her. That night, Elara woke with pain beneath her ribs. The Silver Dawn tearing was gone, but a phantom pull still lingered where the crown bond had once been. She left her room before she could wake Lila and found Ronan on the upper balcony reading a patrol report. You should sleep, he said. So should you. I was here first. Elara leaned against the opposite column. The ache tightened again. Ronan noticed, but he did not come closer. Does it happen often? Less than before. Good. No explanation. No claim that he understood something he could not. Elara glanced at him. You're not going to tell me pain makes me stronger? I was hoping you'd spare me from saying something that stupid. This time she did laugh, quietly. The next morning, she returned to the Wintergate records and found a larger payment made 11 days before the Coronation wedding. Elara traced the processing code through 2 merchant registries. Then she stopped. Ronan entered as she pulled one document free. What did you find? She handed it to him. The payment had gone to a courier service operating between Crownspire and the Arden estates. Ronan read the company name twice. Elara's pulse slowed. The money had finally led somewhere physical. If the courier records still existed, they could show who paid, when the packet moved, and how it was sealed. For the first time, the trail pointed toward the letters that had destroyed her coronation. The courier company kept its northern records in a narrow office above a grain warehouse on the edge of Northreach. By the time Elara and Ronan arrived, rain had turned the yard to mud. The courier master, a nervous man named Pell, bowed too quickly when Ronan entered. "My king, we need your Coronation Week registry," Ronan said. Pell's eyes shifted to Elara. Elara placed the copied Wintergate payment record on his desk. "Start with this processing code." Pell looked at the number and lost what little color remained in his face. He unlocked a cabinet and pulled out 2 leather-bound books. Elara found the payment from 11 days before the coronation, then a second entry carrying the same code. Here. The registry showed an insured packet collected from the Arden estate and delivered to Crownspire 3 nights before the ceremony. The receiving line named Gideon Arden's private clerk. "Who sealed it?" Elara asked. "The sender." "And what did you record?" "For insured packets, wax color, matrix, declared contents, weight, and claim number." Pell turned the book. Black wax, hawk matrix, 3 correspondence folios, 1 linen wrapper, claim number 741C. Elara wrote the number down. "Do you keep the matching claim stub?" "The receiving office does. The stub travels with the packet. If there's a dispute, both halves have the same number." Ronan looked at her. If claim number 741C was still attached to the evidence packet in Crownspire, they could tie this shipment directly to whatever Celeste had presented in the Great Hall. "Can the pickup date be changed later?" Elara asked. "Not without changing both the dispatch ledger and the receiving ledger." "Good. I want certified copies." Pell swallowed. "Yes, Lady Wynn." The letter Celeste had displayed in the Great Hall was dated nearly 2 weeks before this shipment. That alone did not prove forgery. Old letters could be mailed later. Elara refused to pretend otherwise. What mattered was the wax description. The packet had left Arden Estate under a hawk matrix 3 nights before the coronation. If the same matrix appeared on a letter supposedly sealed before that matrix existed, the date itself would become evidence. Before Pell could search further, a messenger arrived from the keep. Ronan read the note and frowned. The Grey March merchants raised the grain price 22%. Elara held out her hand, read it, then said, "They're bluffing. They know Northreach needs winter reserves, and they think you'll answer pressure with more pressure." His eyebrow lifted. "You make that sound like a character flaw. Today it is." An hour later, 6 merchants sat across from them in the Northreach council chamber. Ronan opened hard. "You raised an agreed price after the draft was issued. Market conditions changed," the lead merchant said. "If you breach the draft, Northreach closes the Western Customs Road for the season." The merchant smiled. Elara touched 2 fingers to the table. Ronan stopped. Reluctantly, but he stopped. Elara leaned forward. "How many storage losses did Grey March report last month?" "That is irrelevant. It is if you're charging scarcity rates while holding surplus grain." "We are not." "Then show us the warehouse declarations." "Silence," Elara continued. "Keep your increase. We reduce volume by 40% and shift the remainder through the river corridor. You cannot cover that volume." "Not alone." Ronan understood. "Northreach can." 40 minutes later, the merchants accepted an 8% increase and guaranteed winter volume. Outside the chamber, Ronan shut the door. "You were wrong about the river capacity. You were wrong about threatening the customs road. You hate losing." "I hate being wrong. That's not what I said." A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Ronan looked almost pleased. "Don't get used to that. I'll try to endure the uncertainty." That afternoon, Pell sent the certified registry copies and the dispatch side half of claim 741C. The same processing code appeared on both the courier payment and one of the Shell Company entries Elara had copied from Wintergate. Money from the Shell network had paid for the Arden packet. Ronan studied the documents. "If I held these until you agreed to a corridor deal, you'd have a problem." Elara met his eyes. "Yes." He handed her the originals. "Then take them." She did not reach immediately. "Why?" "Because trust that exists only when profitable isn't trust." Elara took the papers, her fingers brushed his, and this time she let the contact remain for 1 quiet second before drawing back. Ronan did not turn it into more. Back at the keep, Lila sat outside Elara's room with the bent paper crown in her lap. Ronan glanced at it. "Casualty of the road?" Mama almost sat on it, Lila said. I did not. You almost did. Elara smoothed one crushed silver point. She made it for Lucian on Coronation night. Ronan's expression changed. She was waiting to give it to him after he crowned me. He made an entire hall question you. For a few minutes I questioned myself too. Ronan leaned against the wall. Public humiliation has a way of making other people's judgment sound like your own voice. Elara looked at him, then at the paper crown. That evening, she compared Claim 741C with the letter details she remembered from the Great Hall. The hawk impression had contained a narrow split through the left wing, a flaw distinctive enough that she had noticed it even then. She circled the claim number. The next question belonged to Crownspire's matrix registry. If Marcus could establish when that damaged hawk seal had been commissioned, and if Claim 741C still traveled with Celeste's evidence, the courier trail would no longer point toward the forged letters. It would reach them. Marcus found claim number 741C before he found the wax contradiction. The 3 letters Celeste had presented in the Great Hall were still sealed inside the royal evidence case. Attached to the linen wrapper was the courier receiving stub. By bon muy motse. Marcus compared it with the certified dispatch record Elara had sent from Northreach. Same number, same weight, same declared contents, same delivery date. The Arden packet and the 3 accusation letters were now the same piece of evidence. He carried the file to the Crown archives. The original Northern Route assignment still bore Lucian's signature, dated 6 months before the coronation. Attached to it were Elara's official inquiries to Northreach and Council minutes authorizing alternative freight studies. Then Marcus opened the seal registry. The hawk impression on one accusation letter had a narrow split through the left wing. He found the matching matrix entry. House Arden had commissioned that damaged hawk matrix 9 days after the date written on the letter. Marcus checked twice. An old letter could be mailed late. It could not be sealed with a matrix that did not yet exist. He took everything to Lucian. The Alpha King was alone in his private council chamber when Marcus laid the documents across the desk. This is the packet Elara traced, Marcus said, tapping the courier stub. Claim 741C. It matches the dispatch ledger from Arden Estate. Lucian read the number. And the wax? Marcus placed the matrix registry beside the letter. This seal did not exist on the date written here. Lucian's gaze stopped on his own signature at the bottom of Elara's Northern Route assignment. You assigned me to study those routes. She had told him the truth in front of the entire court. He had known enough to recognize it and chosen doubt anyway. Bring Celeste. She arrived minutes later. Her eyes moved once across the desk and settled on the courier stub. So you found the packet. Lucian stood. You knew these letters came from Arden Estate. Celeste folded her arms. Of course I knew where the archive packet came from. I told you they were found through Arden channels. This letter carries a seal that did not exist when it was supposedly written. That proves the seal is wrong. It proves the document cannot be what you claimed. Her expression sharpened. 1 document. 3 letters traveled in the same insured packet. And you are desperate to make all 3 disappear because you finally regret what you did. Lucian's wolf stirred, but his voice stayed level. Did Elara write them? Celeste did not answer. The silence was deliberate rather than frightened. Lucian stepped closer. Did she? You want me to give you a sentence that makes you innocent. His face hardened. Nothing you say can do that. That made her pause. You placed those letters in front of me, he continued. I chose to suspend her coronation. Celeste's mouth tightened. You chose more than that. Yes. She gave a brittle smile. Good. Then remember it before you pretend this ends with a courier number. Her hand closed over a copy of Elara's authentic Northreach correspondence. These are real. Her freight studies are real. Her knowledge of First Dawn law is real. She severed you within hours and crossed directly into Ronan Thorne's territory. Marcus understood. The property challenge. Celeste looked at him. If Elara concealed or engineered a plan to divert Wintergate before the breach, the marriage can remain severed while the reversion is struck down. The correspondence was Crown business, Lucian said. Some of it was. Can you prove any of it was not? Celeste smiled. Can she prove every contact was? She gathered the genuine correspondence into a neat stack. The Moon Court will not ask whether you regret believing me. It will ask whether Elara had already positioned herself to recover Wintergate. She knew the law. She knew the northern routes. She knew Ronan's territory could shelter her. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Knowing the law is not fraud. No. Intis. And you think you can prove hers? Celeste held his gaze. I only need enough to make the court look. She left before Lucian dismissed her. By morning, Marcus sent certified copies of Claim 741C, the Matrix Registry, the original Crown assignment, and the council minutes to Northreach. Lucian added one page in his own hand. I know what they did. I also know what I did. Elara read the line once, folded it, and placed it beside the evidence. More important was what Marcus had sent with it. She placed Claim 741C beside Pell's certified dispatch copy. The numbers matched exactly. For the first time, the packet she had traced from Wintergate money was legally tied to the same 3 letters Celeste had used in the Great Hall. The proof did not depend on Lucian believing her now. Ronan stood across the table. He finally understands? He asked. He understands enough to stop calling deception an excuse. And you? I have to go back. Ronan nodded. No warning. No attempt to decide whether returning meant forgiveness. Then he asked, Do you want me beside you? Elara looked at him. Yes, I'll be there. A knock came almost immediately. Ronan's legal advisor entered carrying a silver-edged notice. Elara recognized the Moon Court seal. House Arden filed a First Dawn property fraud challenge this morning, he said. Anticipatory diversion. Elara took the notice. At the bottom, beneath the filing number, the court had stamped, Prima facie review granted. Celeste had lost the safety of the forged letters, so she had turned Elara's real work into the next weapon. The Moon Court did not wait for Elara to return to Crownspire. By noon, a second notice arrived at Northreach. This one carried a black judicial ribbon. Elara read the first paragraph standing beside Ronan's counsel table. Then she read it again. Provisional receivership, she said. Ronan's legal advisor nodded grimly. Effective immediately. The order did not remove Wintergate from Elara. Not yet. It did something more dangerous. Until the fraud hearing, she could no longer sign long-term trade agreements, move large treasury reserves, alter border tariffs, grant exclusive commercial rights, or deploy Wintergate forces beyond defensive necessity without approval from a neutral Moon Court steward. If she lost the hearing, the reversion would be voided, and Wintergate would pass into Crown trusteeship until permanent ownership was determined. For the first time since the Silver Dawn seal, Elara felt the ground move beneath her. When does the steward arrive? Tomorrow morning. And the hearing? 2 days. Ronan looked at the order. That is fast. It is supposed to be, the advisor said. Receivership exists to prevent disputed property from being moved while the court reviews intent. Elara closed the document. Celeste had found exactly the right weapon. Not scandal. Procedure. By afternoon, the consequences had already reached Wintergate. A grain contract Elara had negotiated through a provisional House Wynn office was frozen before signature. 2 warehouse owners refused to release stock without confirmation from the incoming steward. A border captain sent word asking whether his orders still carried her authority. Then came the letters. Copies of Elara's old correspondence with Northreach appeared in noble houses across Crown lands. Not forged this time. Real. That made them more dangerous. Celeste released them with selected freight studies and a simple timeline. Elara contacted Northreach months before the coronation. Lucian publicly questioned her. The covenant was breached. Elara severed before dawn. By the next afternoon, she was under Ronan Thorne's protection. The story wrote itself if no one looked too closely. Elara had planned everything. Ronan had been waiting. Lucian's betrayal had merely given her the excuse. By evening, Wintergate sent another message. 3 local councillors had demanded clarification before recognizing any new House Wynn directive. Elara read the names in silence. They are scared, Ronan said. They should be. You sound like you blame them. I don't. That was what made it worse. If she had been one of them, watching control of an essential territory move from Crown to Elara and then into judicial receivership within days, she would have asked questions too. Ronan's counsel asked different ones. You cannot appear beside her at the hearing, Calder said. They were gathered around the long northern table. Celeste is already claiming there was a pre-existing alliance. If you walk into Crownspire with Lady Wynn, you make her argument easier. Another advisor added, and if she loses, Northreach loses any immediate access to Wintergate. The Crown could treat your involvement as interference in disputed territory. Ronan looked at Elara, not his counsel. She understood the cost. If she asked him to stay away, no one could call it abandonment. If she asked him to come, he would enter the same hall where Celeste intended to use him as evidence against her. Ronan waited until the room emptied. Then he asked, "Do you still want me there?" Elara looked toward the window. "You could lose politically by standing beside me." "Yes. Your counsel thinks you shouldn't. My counsel is allowed to be right sometimes." Despite herself, she almost smiled. Ronan's expression softened only slightly. That wasn't an answer. Elara turned back to him. "Yes, I want you there." No triumph crossed his face. "Then I'll be there." That was all. No promise to destroy Celeste. No declaration that Northreach would fight Crownlands. Just presence, chosen, and accepted. Later that night, Elara spread every document she possessed across the council table. She started with the Silver Dawn records. Certified receipt. Covenant serial number. Filing time. Tomas Vale's seal. Assistant witness signature. Next came Lucian's original Northern Route assignment, now confirmed from the Crown archives. Beside it, she placed the correspondence with Elara Wynn and the Council freight studies. Then Wintergate. 3 shell companies, shared banking intermediary, warehouse leases signed months before the coronation, Arden-linked processing codes. Then the courier records. The insured packet collected from Arden estate, delivery registry, payment code, matching the shell network. Finally, the wax. The timeline anomaly Pell's records had exposed, and Marcus's archive confirmation that the altered Hawk matrix did not exist on the date written on the letter. Nothing by itself was enough. Together, it was a structure. Elara stared at the documents until the pattern sharpened. Celeste's case depended on making Elara's legitimate crown work look secret. Her defense could prove those assignments were legitimate, but defense alone would leave one question hanging over her forever. What if she had planned more? Elara looked at the Arden payment dates again, 4 months before the coronation. Warehouse positions acquired before Celeste claimed to have discovered any betrayal. Courier money moved before the accusation. Elara slowly pushed the Silver Dawn papers to one side. Ronan watched her. "What?" "Tomorrow, Celeste will try to make me prove I never planned to betray Lucian. That is the challenge." "No." Elara placed the shell ledger beside the courier registry. "That is the trap." Ronan's eyes narrowed. Elara looked down at the provisional receivership order. If she lost, Wintergate would leave her hands. Worse, the same court that had watched her lose her crown would decide that perhaps she had deserved the humiliation after all. She closed the file. "Tomorrow we stop defending me." Ronan said nothing. Elara met hiskaze. "Tomorrow we prove what they did." The great hall of Crownspire looked exactly as Elara remembered it. The same black and silver banners hung from the vaulted ceiling. The same marble dais rose above the floor. The same moon priestess stood beside the ceremonial table. Even the Luna crown rested on its velvet cushion. Only Elara's place had changed. She did not stand beneath the dais waiting for someone to decide whether she deserved a crown. She stood at the central hearing table with the Silver Dawn file before her and the House Wynn seal beside it. Ronan remained with the Northreach delegation several paces behind, where Elara had asked him to stand. Across the hall, Celeste Arden stood beside Gideon. The galleries were full. 3 Wintergate delegates occupied the first row. The presiding Moon Justice raised her hand. House Arden challenges the property reversion attached to the First Dawn severance. If anticipatory diversion is proven, Wintergate will pass into Crown trusteeship. The marriage itself was not under review. Celeste stepped forward. Elara Wynn contacted Northreach months before the coronation. Within hours of King Lucian's breach, she severed the union, recovered Wintergate, and traveled directly into Alpha King Ronan Thorne's protection. She placed the authentic correspondence on the table. "These documents are real." Elara said, "Yes." "You contacted Northreach?" "Yes." "You studied freight alternatives?" "Yes." "You knew Wintergate could revert?" "Yes." Murmurs moved through the hall. Celeste turned toward the Wintergate delegates. She had already mapped her escape. Elara waited. "Now let's discuss why." She opened the first file. "This is the Crown assignment authorizing the Northreach corridor study." Marcus carried the original to the Moon Justice. Lucian's signature appeared at the bottom, 6 months before the coronation. Elara called Elara Wynn. The Northreach trademaster confirmed that every perseverance communication from Elara came through official Crown channels and concerned freight policy. Did I ask you for sanctuary, private protection, or recognition of an independent Wintergate? No. Celeste rose. You serve Northreach. Elias touched the record book before him. My office logs do not. The freight studies came next. Celeste had described them as preparation for diversion. Elara produced the council minutes authorizing contingency planning for northern grain disruptions. One approving signature belonged to Gideon Arden. You voted for the study, Elara said. Gideon's expression hardened. Not for secession. Neither did I. Celeste moved to the next attack. Official assignments do not explain why she knew exactly how to invoke first dawn before sunrise. Elara turned toward the Moon Justice. Registrar Tomas Vale. Tomas approached with his assistant and the original Moon Ledger. The Covenant serial number matched Ilara's certified receipt. The ceremony log showed the coronation suspended at 11:43 and the petition filed at 3:14. The black breach mark had formed before Elara reached the registrar's office, witnessed by Tomas and his assistant. Could Lady Wynn create or alter the breach mark? The justice asked. No. Could she backdate the filing? No. Was the Silver Dawn procedure valid? Yes, Celeste said. Procedure does not prove intent. Elara faced her. You're right. She closed the Silver Dawn file. So let's stop talking about my procedure and talk about your timeline. Elara opened the Wintergate records. North Star Storage, Vale Freight Holdings, Mercer Grain Cooperative. 3 shell companies using one banking intermediary. They began acquiring warehouse positions near Wintergate almost 4 months before the coronation. She placed the processing records beside them. The same payment network funded an insured Arden courier shipment. Then came claim number 741C. Elara held up Pell's certified dispatch record. This packet left Arden Estate 3 nights before the coronation. Declared contents: 3 correspondence folios, Black Hawk wax, linen wrapper. Claim number 741C. Marcus brought forward the royal evidence wrapper that had held Celeste's accusation letters since the coronation. The receiving stub still hung from it. Same weight, same contents, same delivery date. No inference remained between the Arden shipment and the 3 letters that had stopped Elara's coronation. Celeste's face changed. Elara continued. An old letter can be mailed late, so the courier date alone does not prove forgery. She placed 1 accusation letter beside the Crown Matrix registry. This does. The hawk impression carried a narrow split through the left wing. The matrix that made this seal was commissioned by House Arden 9 days after the date written on the letter. The hall went silent. Elara laid out the sequence calmly. House Arden began acquiring warehouse positions 4 months before the coronation. Arden linked money paid for claim 741C. That packet carried the accusation letters into Crownspire, and one was sealed with a matrix that did not yet exist on its stated date. She looked from Gideon to Celeste. You turned Crown assignments your father approved into evidence of treason, then placed the result before a man whose fear you understood. Celeste's composure finally fractured. You still went straight to Ronan. After the breach, you expected him to protect you. No, I asked him, because you already knew him. Elara's expression did not change. I had never met him. Elias's logs and Elara's border entry time were already in the hearing file. Elara rested one hand on claim 741C. You did not discover my betrayal. You financed it, wrote it, sealed it, and waited for my husband to believe it. The Moon Justice called Lucian only after Elara sat down. Did Lady Wynn confess treason to you? No. Did she ask you to suspend her coronation? No. Did Lady Celeste present the accusation letters? Yes. Did anyone compel you to suspend Lady Wynn's coronation? No. Did anyone compel you to breach your exclusivity oath? Lucian's gaze found Elara. No. He paused. They lied to me. They did not make my choice for me. The justice dismissed him. Elara had already established the fraud before he spoke. After a brief recess, the Moon Court returned. The fraud challenge is denied. Provisional receivership is terminated immediately. The Silver Dawn procedure is affirmed. Wintergate's reversion to Elara Wynn is final. The oldest Wintergate delegate closed his eyes in relief. The Moon Priestess stepped forward. The accusation that halted Elara Wynn's coronation was false. This time, the same hall heard the truth. Then the Luna crown was carried forward. "Lady Wynn," the priestess said, "do you wish the suspended ceremony restored?" Elara looked at the silver crown. Once, she had imagined what receiving it would mean. Now she knew. "No." The hall stilled. "I came back to restore my name. I did not come back for a crown that required someone else's permission." The oldest Wintergate delegate stood, sovereign holder of Wintergate. The other two rose with him. Northreach followed. Then the territorial representatives. One by one, the court that had watched her lose a crown stood to recognize an authority Lucian had neither created nor returned to her. Celeste's voice cut through the hall. "You only have Wintergate because you married him." Elara turned. "No." Her fingers rested on the House Wynn seal. "I nearly lost it because I married him." When the hearing ended, Elara remained near the dais for one moment. The stone had not changed. She had. Ronan did not cross the room to claim a place beside her. He waited. Elara walked to him and held out her hand. Ronan took it. No kiss, no vow, no performance for the court. Only a choice Elara made herself, in full view of the people who had once mistaken her silence for weakness. House Arden's fall was quieter than its rise. Gideon lost his council seat. The shell company assets were seized and returned to the accounts they had drained. Celeste was barred from crown governance and stripped of every commercial privilege tied to her family name. Elara did not attend the sentencing. She had already gone home. 3 months later, Lucian came to Wintergate alone. He waited beside the old fountain, while Lila stood inside the doorway with Elara. "You don't have to go out," Elara told her. Lila looked at her father for a long time. "I know." Then she stepped outside. Lucian crouched when she reached him, but he did not open his arms. Lila still carried herself with the seriousness children learned when adults disappointed them too early. "Did Mama do something bad that night?" Lucian's face tightened. "No." "Then why did everyone think she did?" He looked toward Elara once, then back at his daughter. "Because I let them." Lila frowned. "That was mean." "Yes." "Did Celeste make you?" "No." "Did Grandpa Arden?" "No." Lila considered him. "Then you did it." Lucian swallowed. "Yes." She did not hug him. But after a moment, she sat on the edge of the fountain beside him. Lucian sat too. Elara went back inside. That was all the forgiveness he had earned. And for now, it was enough. A year after the coronation wedding, Wintergate no longer felt like something Elara had recovered from Crownlands. It simply felt like hers. Her work table faced the river instead of a throne. Trade reports lay beside Lila's school books. People knocked before entering and called her Elara more often than sovereign. Ronan never moved into Wintergate. That mattered too. He still ruled Northreach. Elara still ruled her own territory. They argued over tariffs, spent some weeks together and others apart. He had become part of her life slowly enough that she could remember choosing every step. That evening, he found her sitting on the floor beside an open wooden box. "What is that?" Elara held up the bent paper crown. The silver paint had faded along the folds. "For Papa" was still visible in Lila's uneven blue handwriting. Ronan sat across from her. "You kept it?" "Yes. I thought you might burn everything from that night." "I almost did." Her thumb moved along one crushed point of the crown. "For a long time, I thought this was proof of the worst thing that happened to me." Ronan waited. Elara smiled faintly. "It isn't." "What is it then?" She looked toward the hallway. Lila's laughter drifted from downstairs where she was arguing with a tutor about whether wolves should count as historical witnesses. "It's proof she was watching." Ronan said nothing. "She watched them take my crown away. She watched Lucian leave with Celeste. And then she watched me leave too." Elara lowered the paper crown into her lap. "I used to think I left because he didn't choose me." Ronan's gaze stayed on hers. "But I left because I finally understood that my daughter was learning from whatever I did next." Elara carefully placed the crown back inside the box. Ronan leaned against the bed frame. "You're quiet." "I'm thinking. That usually costs me money." She laughed. Then the laughter faded. "Ronan." Something in her tone changed him immediately. He straightened, but did not move closer. "If I opened my hand to you, would you accept it?" For the first time in several seconds, he said nothing. "Why now?" Elara looked down at her hands. A year ago, The emptiness left by Lucian had felt like an injury. Later, it had felt like freedom. She had been afraid that wanting another bond meant surrendering some part of that freedom again. Now she understood the difference. Because I know I don't need one. Ronan remained still, which means I can finally choose one. His wolf stirred at the edge of her awareness, not pushing, not reaching. Waiting. You don't owe me permanence, he said. I know. You don't owe me Northreach. I know. You don't owe me this because I stood beside you in Crownspire. Elara looked at him. That's why I'm asking. Ronan's voice lowered. You can change your mind tomorrow. I know. Next year. I know. 10 years from now. A smile touched her mouth. That's why I'm asking you. Elara closed her eyes. For years, the crown bond had been a door she forgot could ever close. When she severed it, the silence had terrified her. This time, she reached for the door herself. Her wolf rose within her, alert but calm. Elara opened the edge of her awareness. Not everything. Not surrender. En invitation. Ronan felt it. He did not enter until she widened it. Then his presence touched hers, gently warm, controlled, unmistakably him. No command followed. No supernatural certainty told her he belonged there. She did not disappear beneath the connection. She remained Elara. Ronan was simply someone she had allowed close enough to be felt. His eyes opened. Still sure? Elara looked at him. Ask me tomorrow. His expression shifted. She smiled. And I'll choose you again. From downstairs, Lila shouted, Mama, Ronan, dinner. Ronan stood and offered his hand. Elara looked at it, then at the paper crown resting safely inside the box. Once, an entire kingdom had watched another person decide whether Elara Wynn was worthy of a crown. She closed the lid. Then she took Ronan's hand because she wanted to. Coming, she called, and together they went downstairs. For the first time in her life, Elara understood the difference between being chosen and having a choice.